Bangalore and India, and there are three parts to me. So I'm a martial artist. I'm into the medical field, and I'm also a marketer. And we are connecting today for the third part, of course. But all three parts equally define me. So as far as a martial artist, I'm a third degree black belt, training since the last 14 and a half years, continuing to train every weekend even now. As far as the medicine is concerned, so my qualification is PhD in alternate medicine, which I did after my engineering and MBA. And the third part is, of course, the engineering followed by MBA, which led me to my corporate career, working across MNCs and startups, working with budgets running up to 3-digit crore revenues, and also with probably 1 lakh at startups, 1 lakh Indian rupees at startup, or probably lesser. I've had the fortune of working in both the B2B and the B2C worlds, and it's been a very, very good journey. And I've also had, in all these three aspects of my life, I've had very, very good fortune of having good teachers and good mentors, who I have to shut up and follow it. And, life's been interesting. So I think, so I've worked with four organizations. So that's from ZEE, which is media, to telecom, which is ADITYA BIRLA, and then to CASTROL, which is oil and gas, and of course ADITYA BIRLA. In between ADITYA BIRLA and CASTROL, I did have a startup stint, and right now I'm consulting. So it's really been it's as wide, like you are rightly saying, and at the same time it's very similar. Like they're very similar and they're very dissimilar. So it's actually I wouldn't say oxymoron, but it's a good contrast, because working, like I'm saying, like working in an established organization like an MNC, or even an Indian MNC, which is ADITYA BIRLA, which is the largest Indian MNC, where processes are in place, budgets are in place, but you still got things to do, and the scale is upward from a certain point, but the job that you're doing is unidimensional, depth-wise and unidimensional. Vis-a-vis in a startup, you're practically doing everything. And now the third angle to it, which is my current consulting profile, which is a completely new ball game. And I think essentially I was always, I didn't want to just keep doing the same thing again and again. And that probably explains, the movement, and I really don't call it jump, but the movement of various industries. And as of the pandemic, specifically answering your question in terms of as of the pandemic, how are various industries affected? And of course, some of the industries like travel is very obviously affected, not in a good way. But healthcare and pharma is affected in a very good way. It is the industry and sector of the time. Also, it depends at which period of time we are talking. Like for instance, I was on the panel of another discussion, and there this was about 6-7 months back. At that point of time, the economy wasn't looking good, right? So so from that period to now, things have totally moved upwards, and they're looking positive, which is a good thing. And I was just speaking to the MD of another organization which is in the elevator business, and he actually just a few days back, and he was saying that it's looking really good, and Q3 was good numbers, and Q2 also was picking up. So I think if I have to kind of summarize, and this is something that I'm my own personal observations and also things that I've been discussing with my colleagues and my seniors, where I'm of the firm opinion that this pandemic, for all its misery and for all its world came to a stop, kind of a not so good thing. I think the flip side of it is that as corporates or as business people or as just human beings, I think we took us a minute to stop and ponder and rework at things. And I think the very fact that you're sitting in Singapore and I'm sitting here and we're talking itself is a good outcome of this pandemic, which is probably this wouldn't have happened otherwise, or it would have happened, but it wouldn't have happened so fast. So everything's taken a leap forward and in a good direction. Also in the business world, remote working has become so much more easier, so much more acceptable. Work from home has become not a distant possibility. It's not been looked down upon. It's a good thing right now. In terms of women coming back into the the work field, people who've taken a sabbatical, it's looking good, even better now, because now women can continue to be at home and also work and come back and have a career. So, it's just like, I think we leapt 20 years ahead, and in a good way. The leap was good. So I look at this pandemic as a good thing, with, of course, the personal losses and medical losses and loss of lives, keeping that and giving it its due place. But I think because we took a pause, I think as a business and as a human race, I think we grew. I don't look at it as a 16.5-year-old journey. While I know you're asking about my career, but I think you're also asking about what are my learnings, which obviously some of which I will, as probably all of which I will put in my career too. Right. So I look at it as a 40-year-old journey. That's how old I am. So, so I would look at it like that. So I think the first thing, and I don't know if this is, if this is something that, will work for others, but it's definitely worked for me. So one is, I think I never wanted to get defined by, the regular standards, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife, somebody's mom. I think as a kid also, I remember, not wanting to just get defined by these labels. And I think that refusal to get accepted by those standard labels, that, society kind of lays out, is what made me who I am today, number one. Number two, I think, the constant thing that, you can either be an engineer, or you can be a doctor, or you can only be this, you can't be that. Or you started your career with sales, or now you can't get into marketing. Or you started your, career with media, so now you can't get into any other industry. Or, okay, at 40, you're still doing martial arts. Why would you want to do martial arts, So who are you going to beat up? So I think these questions actually spurred me on, because I was like, let's question these things. And, let's go and see if we can kind of conquer them, right? I think so. That's the second thing. So one is, of course, don't be, don't limit yourself to kind of, go and fill those boxes that society lays out for you. Make your own boxes, number one. Number two, and I would say, don't even make your own boxes. Just make your space, I would say. That's one. Second is, don't be satisfied. I mean, okay, I got a job, I've got this good business school, and I've achieved this amount of money that I needed to make. Don't be satisfied. I think the moment you're satisfied, you become complacent, and complacency is the beginning of mediocrity. So let's not get complacent with what we have. And the third thing, and the most important thing, I think, which has constantly defined my life, which I think when I have to kind of if I have to write my epitaph or whatever, it is that be courageous. And I don't say this lightly. I say this with a lot of instances in my life where I had the easy choice of not being courageous, So long before Me Too has become a big thing, long before, I had a scenario where, in the corporate world, where I was just a manager, and I had, the senior most member in the company, sending out messages and probably, amounting to a sexual harassment. And the easy way out was to keep quiet. The easy way out was to just leave the organization, find a better job, find a job away from the gentleman, But I think, at that point of time, me and of course my teacher, and of course people who stood by me said, no, you want to stand up and fight this, you stand up and fight it. So that's just one of the many incidents that I can tell you about. That's what defines you. Like, all of us are engineers and MBAs, and all of us are doctors, and all of us are corporates. I mean, there's dime a dozen by that, but in every gully and nukkad that you go to. But I think what separates you is your character, and that could be any. Like, you could choose to be dedicated about your work. You could be courageous about who you are as a person, and courageous in work, courageous in personal life, in whatever it is that you choose to be. But I think one defining character. If somebody says, "Who is DR.ANVITHA?" then they'll be like, "Okay, she's a courageous person. She'll stand up for what's wrong, or she'll stand up where her team. If she has her team is rest assured that she's going to fight tooth and nail, and no harm's going to come to them." So so that's the kind of person. So build who you are. Build your. I think internal fiber is much more important than being very good at PPTs and Excel sheets, you will get there. I mean, you will obviously get there. You'll obviously get good at your job. There's no, like, you keep doing the same thing again and again, you're not going to get good. You are definitely going to get. And, Kashish, like your journey, the moment you shift organizations, the moment you learn different cultures, you learn different businesses, you're obviously going to, be good at what you do. But I think internal fiber is something that, the core of who you are is something that you need to consciously develop. And the definition of what is successful, or when is it that I've reached that, that brink of success is so defined. It's so cliched that, I think my advice, if it counts for anything, would be like, have your own definition. And success is not only, that designation that you become a CEO, or it's not that amount of money, but it's also, okay, I could be a CEO, but if I'm so unfit and I have such a big belly and, I can't even walk 5 staircases, then that's really not successful, right? So success in all aspects of life, be it health, be it family, be it peace of mind. And one of that pillar is career, which also, the moment you retire, it's over. The moment you leave your organization, they forget about you, you're replaceable. So I think, your definition of success, and that could just be as simple as, I'm making good breakfast and I'm really good at making breakfast. That itself is also a definition of success. In fact, a lot of my friends, and especially the female friends, they're like, how did you manage to get 3 degrees? How do you still manage to, be a martial artist and that? So I'm like, so my point is not that I'm any greater achiever than somebody else, because, the fact that you looked after your babies, you gave birth to them, at the same time, it was at that time when I managed to go and, probably, pick up one more degree, or, pick up a new skill set. So you're equally, you as a homemaker are equally successful as I am. It's only about what my direction was and where I went, and like they always say, your thought process and your operation should not be in conflict. Like, like if I wanted to be a mountaineer, then I shouldn't go and do scuba diving. That I think is the only thing that one needs to be cognizant of.